Let's recap. Here's what you need to consider when producing a promo. Length, placement and sound, content, beds, effects, voiceover, post-production. Production example. Let's create a promo now and let's stick to the guidelines I mentioned earlier. For the purpose of this presentation, I decided to construct a promo for a book which I particularly love and I think everybody should read. That book is The Creature from Jekyl Island by G.E.Griffin. Considerations. Length. First, I started out by remembering the maximum time allowed for this promo. In this case, it's a 60-second production, no more and no less. Placement and sound. I must also keep in mind that this promo should work throughout the day and on almost any kind of a station. It's what I call a standalone promo. Content. Next, I wrote everything I want the listener to know about that book. I'm not going to bore you here with the original text and how long it took me to arrive at the final version. Suffice it to say that my original draft took over 2 minutes just to read out, never mind the whole production length. So I needed to cut and trim and revise until my text would fit in well under 1 minute. Beds. I needed to also decide what kind of a bed I should pick. In the end, I decided to create one. That's one of the advantages of also being a musician. But since I wanted to have an orchestral feel, I utilized some good orchestral samples, which I then weaved into my little composition. Effects. Since I wrote my whole piece from scratch, there was no huge need for link effects, but I did apply them, but only in the most minimal fashion. Voiceover. I decided to mix multiple voices, drawing on all of our staff here at MMI. Once I had them all down, I mixed and matched them until I felt they all flowed together just right. Post-production. I ensured that the overall sound was dynamic and powerful, but without being overpowering or noisy. And here's the final result. It's time you knew about the crime of the century. It's time you found out what is really going on behind the scenes in your government.
The Creature from Jekyl Island.
This is a gripping work which reads like a thriller, and you just can't put it down. The only trouble is, this is real history. The history the government would prefer you forgot.
The Creature from Jekyl Island is the story of the Federal Reserve System. If you read only one book about politics or money, make it The Creature from Jekyl Island.
It's written by one of the world's leading authorities on the monetary system, the man who inspired politicians like the presidential candidate Ron Paul, investigator and best-selling author G.E.Griffin.
The Creature from Jekyl Island.
Available from all good bookstores, including Amazon.com as well as RealityZone.com.
It's time. Closing remarks. Like any creative endeavor, radio production is an art form. And like any commercial art form, it needs to follow certain set rules. As a producer, you need to be aware of the psychology of the listener first and foremost. But to make things more interesting, you also need to factor in the psychology of the advertiser himself, as well as the psychology of the radio station manager who will be the one playing your ad. You'll be surprised at the mind-boggling divergence of views you need to contend with. Sometimes this can even lead to deadlocks. Resolving these issues can be difficult at times and impossible at others. Not that long ago, we had an issue with an affiliate who insisted that our ads spoil his station's sound by being too loud, utilizing the wrong voices and sounding like they didn't belong on their station. So we listened very carefully to this station's promos and we were appalled at how poorly produced and undynamic they were. Our knee-jerk reaction was to ask them to upgrade their production rather than demand of us to downgrade ours. But you guessed it. It just inflamed the situation. They certainly didn't want to hear from us that we thought they were inadequate. So we asked the client, and the client said our promo sounded hot and blew everything else on that station out of the water. So we told the client that our station wants to redo the promo their way. So then the client said that if we do that, he'll pull the whole campaign. So we got back to the station, and they insisted that it's either their way or the client can go to hell. As a production company, we had to decide on our priorities. In this case, our priority was to satisfy the client first, to deliver the production we can be proud of second, and to keep the station happy last. We compounded the problem by pointing out this station's inadequate production capability. Well, thankfully, we came to our senses in the end, and we salvaged the deal and agreed to make dynamic changes to the promo and found a happy medium between all the parties involved. Production is not for the faint of heart. It takes time, commitment, vision, and professionalism. Oh, and at least some knowledge of your basic psychology. If you would like to have your promo produced by MMI, drop us an email on mmirecords@meremusic.com. Thank you for listening.
What would the world be like with no more boring, manufactured music being force-fed to radio and TV? It's time for a revolution.
Do you have the result?
It's a bit of a shocker.
Will you just tell us who won?
Oh, let it burn.
How can a band be this good and no one knows about it until now?
Fame Games is a showcase for credible artists from all around the world with their own music. No karaoke allowed. Together with you, Fame Games selects the music that truly deserves to be heard. Unsigned artists are writing and recording some of the best music you'll ever hear from their bedrooms.
Definition of a warrior. I wanna run. All I wanna do is see your hands in the air.
This is where indies are kicking some major label arse.
Fame Games, it's a daily 1-hour show, the first truly inventive radio program in a long time.